What's going on, guys? We're here at the Universal Beach House in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, and it's Sunday afternoon. I'm here. I'm gonna prep a traditional Sunday Italian dinner, and the guys don't know I'm doing it. They're off somewhere right now training, and as you might know, they're all kind of doing a road trip this week, and right now I'm 3 weeks out from a competition, and you know, training and dieting and everything's a little bit tight for me. So the guys from Universal called me up and they said, hey, you know, seeing as you know, it's going to be rough for you to be on the trip every day, you mind coming down on a Sunday and prepping a traditional Italian Sunday dinner? So I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So come inside. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you guys some stuff that I've learned, and some stuff that I've picked up myself along the way, and hopefully you find it interesting. Let's go check it out. All right, so on the menu is standard, you know, pasta and sauce, and I'm gonna make meatballs, some pork chops, and some sausage to go along with it. And probably the most in-depth part of it is making the meatballs, and it's I wish it's something I could say that was like, you know, passed down, I learned from my grandma, but honestly it's just something I looked up in a cookbook when I was probably 12 years old, and I've kind of tweaked it ever since. And you know, I come from a family, my father's side is actually full Italian, and my mother's side is more German, English, Irish, and Scottish. So growing up, my mother never really, my parents are divorced, my mother never really cooked, you know, traditional Italian stuff. So the only time I would have it is when I would go see my father. And he always made it a point, you know, to cook a meal for me. And usually one meal a week, usually on Sunday, would be, you know, pasta with sauce. And it was always just, you know, super simple, and that's what I, you know, I picked up the basics from him. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is slice up an onion. And seeing as we're going to be feeding kind of a large group of guys, hungry guys and girls, I'm figuring on enough to feed about a dozen people, so I'm going to make 2 pots of sauce. Now, I guess if I were a real hero, I'd be using fresh tomatoes, but it'd probably take, I don't know, 20 pounds of tomatoes to get the job done. And considering, you know, the time we've got, we're just, today we're cheating a little bit, and we're going to use canned plum tomatoes. But, I mean, it really comes out great using that. Medium's about perfect, because when you put the oil in to fry the onion, obviously you don't want the oil to burn. I'm going to find myself a can opener, get the tomatoes ready to go, because once you start frying the onion, they fry quick. So you want to kind of have the cans of tomatoes on shotgun ready to go right in the pot. What I've got, so I've got 5 cans of whole tomatoes, and I got 2 cans of about like a heavier puree. I never use paste because I don't know, it's just gross. But like heavy concentrated tomatoes aren't bad. I don't think this one's gonna cut it. I wish Frank was here. We need his big forearms to open these cans. onions cooking up. I'm going to chop up some parsley. I don't get all fussy about getting all the stems out and stuff. I mean, tastes fine. Garlic. Don't go nuts with garlic. Everybody's always so crazy about garlic. They put too much garlic and stuff and it just ruins the flavor of it. All you taste is garlic. And I think honestly, like 1 clove, you know, or two small cloves in each pot is plenty. Plus we're going to use a little bit of garlic when we make the meatballs, so that flavor is going to get into it anyway, so don't use a ton of garlic. Now I'm not looking to brown the onion, just kind of cook it down, so, you know, until it gets like translucent. Don't hit it too hard, this table might collapse. You don't need to chop it up. It's better to just throw it in the sauce hole. When you smash it, it kind of opens it up a bit. These onions are about cooked. And I'm going to take tomatoes, throw them in. I'm going to do probably two and a half cans of plum tomatoes in each. Handful of parsley. And use a little bit of basil, not a ton, but just pick the leaves off. It kind of like, the basil, it seems like when it's in the sauce, it kind of like softens it. Brings down almost like mellows the acidity of it. Alright, so next up, we're going to get the meatballs going. And the only stuff you got that goes into the meatballs, you have the meat. I think I got about 4 pounds here. 4 pounds of ground beef. I mean, sometimes I'll use like half beef, half veal, or beef, ground veal, pork, but it all works. So there's the beef, you got parsley, garlic, Parmesan cheese, and a lot of people use breadcrumbs, but the thing I found to work a lot better is you take Italian bread, cut the crust off, you get the center of the bread, break up into pieces, throw it in a bowl, pour milk on it, let it soak, then you wring it out, drain the milk out of it, and you use that in place of breadcrumbs. And the meatballs are a lot more tender and a lot juicier. With breadcrumbs, you end up with like a dense ball of meat. It's just not as good. So this is the way I found to do it. That definitely works the best. You know, and you can use bread that's stale because you're going to soak it in the milk anyways. So that'll moisten it back up. You don't need, you know, nice fresh bread. You know, and you're paying a lot of money just for breadcrumbs. So if you have stale bread, toast it up, throw it in the food processor, keep it in a, you know, in something that's airtight, like a jar. It won't go bad. It won't get moldy because it's toasted. All right, now I'll soak the bread with the milk. Chop up some parsley in the meantime. Try to get as much out of it as possible. Starting to thin out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, I've got two cans of concentrate here, and I'm going to use probably only one of them, and I might not even use the whole thing. And just throw a few spoonfuls in here, see what it does. You could always come back to it later and add more. So, continuing with the meatballs now, we've got the meat, parsley, and the bread in each one. The only thing we're going to add is Parmesan cheese, which I add about the same amount of cheese as I did parsley, and I just kind of eyeball it. So now I got all this stuff in here. Just gonna mix it all together. And this is really the best way to do it. Just get your hands in there, mix it up. If you sit here with a spoon trying to do it, good luck. The meat for the meatballs is all mixed up. What I'm gonna do is pour some breadcrumbs in a bowl here. And some people do different things with their meatballs. Some people just drop them in the sauce raw. I've done that, it's good. I've also fried them first and then put them in the sauce. That's good, but it's a little extra heavy and it's extra work. Or I've coated them in breadcrumbs, thrown them in the oven. And that's the way I think I like them best. Because you don't have to fry them, so I mean it saves you time and energy, but also you don't have to add all that extra like heaviness, you know, from all the oil and the frying. And they come out really good too. This tray here is about full. I'm going to pop these in the oven and then get the next tray going while these are cooking. I'm going to put these racks in backwards. I throw it in around like, 400. I'm going to turn that down a little bit, 375. Now, before too much time slips away, I think it's already about 3 o'clock. The guys are going to be back, I think, around 7. So, I have some pork chops here. I want to get those in the sauce. That way, they get nice and tender. So if I wait too long, they'll be cooked, but they're not gonna, I want them where they're more falling apart. Ideally, if I started, say I started this morning and the pots were on the stove all day, by nighttime, the pork is just, falling apart. But this should be enough time to do the trick. Pork chops got a good browning on them. I'm just gonna throw them in the sauce. It's good to get these in first, that way they go to the bottom. The meatballs can kind of go on top. to do anything special, just kind of hack it into some pieces. I'm actually going to put a little bit of water in the pan. Rather than fry the sausage, I'd rather kind of steam it a little bit, because the sausage generally is kind of salty, and when you steam it, you'll kind of take a little bit of the salt out. It's not going to bleed the flavor out of it, but kind of, it's like when you fry it, it just really retains everything, versus when you kind of steam it, it's going to mellow it out a little bit, because like I said before, between the meatballs, the sausage, and everything, you don't want, you end up with like a really salty sauce. If I wasn't dieting right now, what I'd normally do is, you know, say you have half a dozen of them, you know, that you couldn't fit in the pot. Well, then you get some Italian bread, slice the meatballs up, throw it on there with a spoonful of sauce, maybe some parsley, and make yourself a meatball sandwich. My cameraman right now is praying that these don't all fit. So that maybe he can have himself something for lunch. I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. So what I got, 2, 4, 6. So I just got word that the guys are on the way back from the gym, which should leave me about 25 minutes, hopefully. I'm gonna turn these 2 pots on, boil the water. What I did in the meantime, just to make space, was I put the oven on, like barely, it's like just on, maybe it's on like 175, and I threw the pots in there just to keep them warm, so I don't need them to cook anymore. I'm gonna wait for this water to boil, and do the macaroni. Once the guys get here, we're gonna get it on the table. Sweet.
Dinner is served, fellas.
Yeah.
You guys hungry?